Objective 50 Pirates in 50 days. And with me right now, Bubba Rosenbaum. How are you, man?
Doing well, Dave. How are you?
Doing great. We're missing Kyle from LaGrange. She's on assignment, and so he'll be back with us, I'm sure, very soon. But Bubba, for our segment 50 Pirates in 50 days, another great show. You got another great guest.
Yeah, last night we caught up with Fred Hicks, who played for the Pirates from 2004 to 2008. So now we're catching up with another guy who's from that era and now is up at the University of Maine, which we'll get to here in a little while. But welcome in former Pirate Kurt Von Bargen.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It's good to be back with the purple and gold.
No doubt about it. It's amazing. We talked about that last night with Fred, and now you're another example of how many coaches we have, that former players or coaches. Really proud to have a lot of coaches in Pirate Nation.
Definitely, man. We got some good roots, and we learned from some good guys.
Before we get started, again, like we asked Fred last night, how are things for you as far as COVID-19? We'll talk about that. There's lots to talk about with that, but it seems like we're talking more about things off the field and off the court than we are about the actual sports. One of these days, maybe we'll get back to sports.
Right. And right now it's a balancing act. You know, when all this first started, about mid-March, I think it was, our head coach, Nick Charlton, did a great job of just prioritizing, things and what we wanted to do and not really just jumping into conclusions and things we wanted to get done. So first and foremost, we want to make sure as our kids had to leave campus, they're going to safe environments where they had things they needed in terms of Wi-Fi, food, etc. And then wanted to make sure they were adjusted academically with their classes, going from in-person to online, supplying them the structure they were used to, but also being reasonable with what we could give the guys. And also the workouts, our strength coach, Coach Lynch, did a great job, posted YouTube videos for the guys to follow based off what they had available with weight room, no weights, and kind of a similar boat nearly every school's in, whether you're Alabama, ECU, University of Maine, all of us were kind of in the same situation. And but our leadership really attacked it head on. And then once we got that squared away, we started doing some football with the guys and doing our best to give them that structure that they're used to, despite doing it in this environment while everybody's away.
What
Dave, I was just going to ask him before we moved on, as far as the technology you're using, obviously everybody's become well acquainted with Zoom over the last 3.5 or 4 months. But in addition to that and FaceTime, I know new East Carolina defensive coordinator Blake Carroll and his staff made use of Kahoot and those quizzes, and whether it's general football stuff or defensive schemes specifically. So what are some technology that maybe you didn't use before that you use now and may use going forward?
Well, Zoom was the big one. I'll always use Zoom. It's so easy, and the kids know it. That whether they have access on their phones, computers, whatever it might be. So Zoom was the first and foremost one. But then beyond that, we really got creative with watching film of the guys and how we taught things. We have an online system for the guys to watch whatever film they want. So I created. You can only watch so much of yourself from spring ball camp in the season. So I really watched a bunch of film with our guys, NFL film, NFL sack film, because the biggest thing was keeping the guys engaged. And we did things like that. Most of it was still on Zoom, but just different ways to teach guys and really try to keep the group small because I have 18 guys in my room. I really taught in groups of like 6 to really engage the guys best I could, but just getting creative, different ways of teaching. But for us, it really stayed on Zoom, and then also like FaceTime groups as well.
As far as Kurt is concerned with your recruitment from East Carolina, can you talk about how you became a Pirate?
Yeah, I recruited ECU. They didn't recruit me. I was a walk-on. So
wow.
Virginia. I'm from Southside, Chesterfield County. Went to school at Benedictine, military Catholic schools in the city at the time. Played a bunch of sports. Football was what I wanted to do. I had some smaller school options. Some 1AA D2 schools was kind of more reasonable route for me, but I wanted to give it a shot. I went to high school with Patrick Dosh, who ended up transferring to ECU. Me and him were close, and I wanted to give it a shot at a bigger level. And I knew Pat really well, and my head coach at the time knew Coach McManus, who's a longtime ECU guy. And I know Ryan. I think Ryan's back there now, actually.
Yes.
And they kind of talked, and Coach McManus said, "I'll give you a shot." And I got there fall 2004, and I walked on. So I kind of recruited ECU, and then kind of went from there.
That's really cool, and especially with a lot of times when you see the guys that it's a blue collar school, and blue collar guys fit in very well. Guys, I think one of the themes we've heard so many times is I think Fred talked about that last night. As a matter of fact, Bubba, with the very fact that there's so many guys where they say, "Well, coach, I'd like to take him, but he's too small. He's not big enough, or he's this or he's that." And where East Carolina, there's a lot of guys that's why they play with a chip on their shoulder, because they're underdogs. And like we were talking last night with ACC schools or some of the other so-called Power Five schools, when you get a chance to play them and beat them, it's very special.
Yeah, and we always knew who we were. Some of our best players were guys that didn't have the typical offer list, if you will, but were some of the best players that came through there, man. And we're proud of that.
And Kurt, one of the things I want to ask you about, coming into the program like you were, you had that coaching change going from John Thompson to Skip Holtz. How was that time? Was your status on the team ever in doubt, or how did that go?
I think as a walk-on, you're always kind of wondering your status in the team, because you're not signing any papers to keep you around, so you're always kind of on edge a little bit. I had a coach when I first got there as a walk-on, and I lived by this. What he told me, he said, "You're walking on, and every day's your tryout." And I never forgot that, and I thought it was the best piece of advice I got. So I always kind of viewed myself as being on the fringe, and I think the Coach Thompson staff got let go middle to end of the season.
November, yeah.
And I was so young. I was a true freshman. I didn't know what was going on. I was just trying to work hard, be in school. I didn't really know anything, So I remember this, though. Coach Holtz got there mid-December, and I'll never forget when he walked in the room, you just knew. You knew things were going to be different. He commanded a presence that I'll never forget, and you just knew things were going to work out. And as players, I don't know if Fred touched on it, we were just hungry for leadership, for Coach Holtz to say go. And we were going to go jump in full speed, no questions asked. We were just tired of losing and wanted to get this thing done. So, and then Coach Holtz gave us that confidence, and he had a plan. He wanted to set a culture, and he knew exactly what he wanted to get done, how he wanted to do it, and that trickled down from the assistants onto us, all the way through the program.
And Kurt, I remember one of the things that Coach did. I remember vividly. I'm glad I didn't have to do it, but you guys did. How was it learning the alma mater and having to sing? I know you guys had to do that. I was told in the football meetings, and they would put they put the freshmen up there, put the freshmen or different guys that didn't know it, and they had to learn the alma mater.
Yeah, so the first year, everyone does it. His first year in camp, we had to sing it to dress. You couldn't put a jersey on until you sang the alma mater. So after that first year, only the newcomers did it. But that first year, the whole team had to do it. I think it was 105 guys. And you had to get in front of the group. And he didn't do it in big groups. He didn't want you to get drowned out by the rest of the guys. But you practiced it, man. We were at the dorms at night, getting out of practice and meetings 10 o'clock or so. You practice it, and you're just and luckily for me, he went alphabetical order. So the V came last. So I was able to just sing along with the other guys. So I kind of lucked out. If he went, opposite, I'd been in trouble. But I got my first shot with it, so I was good.
Now, Kurt, before we go any farther, one of our viewers, Tommy Nason, is chiming in, just kind of reflecting on what you're saying there, or reiterating what you're saying as far as that. He said, that's right. That's what it means to be a pirate in terms of getting overlooked, and then using that to motivate you to accomplish what we accomplished.
No doubt, man. It's huge, man. I'd be curious to see the guys that came on here and who they set off from versus who really did, Because a lot of the guys that came to ECU, who else recruited you? It was a lot of the Gardner-Webbs, App States, Coastals, and they came to ECU, and it was that chip that everyone talks about, and it stayed there.
I just can't believe Justin Hardy with Wes Craven. I mean, he actually, the fact he didn't even get, I think we'd already offered all our scholarships, right, Bubba and Kurt, and then they gave him they said, if you can just make it this year, then they would put him on the scholarship for the sophomore year. I think
Yeah,
that was right.
according to what I heard, Dave, I mean, he had the offer from Fayetteville State, Division II program, and then preferred walk on for us, and then put him on scholarship there shortly after.
And he only had he only became the as far as the FBS, yeah, with the wide receiver, the number of catches, and then Zay beat it with it. Yeah, and having that was very special. So, like if he didn't have any talent, but that's Kurt. I guess that's what makes us special, though, is that if we had a whole bunch of 5 stars, we probably wouldn't be the Pirates. That's what makes us Pirates, is the very fact that mascot, everything's perfect about the geography, the mascot, everything's perfect about our school, is that we're blue collar school. And some people, I think, want us to be an Ivy League school. No offense to the Ivy League, but that's just not who we are.
Right, correct. Yeah, and we've always had a good gauge who we are as a program.
Somebody else that chimed in, he actually sent this in before the show began, and I told you about this because he was one of your roommates at ECU. And Jay Sonhalter, he said, my brother and Coach Von Bargen, best roommate, great cook on the grill, always clean, missed the college days, proud of Kurt's coaching career, and he's going to be a head coach one day.
I appreciate that, Sonny, man. Always give me some good pumps, whether it's on Facebook Live, when you're doing games on TV. I appreciate it.
I can't wait, Kurt, to see the. I'm sorry.
Dave, I was going to ask him if he had some leverage on Sonny for us.
I got tons of leverage on Sonny. I don't know what I can put on here, man, because Sonny's like the face and the voice of everywhere. And everywhere I go, man, everyone loves Sonny. I can give you a lot when the cameras turn off, but I'm trying to give you right now.
We'll have to start charging people, Kurt. They don't need to get free content.
Right. No, but I don't want to say type anything bad about me while I'm talking, so I got to be careful what I say.
Well, I'll tell you one thing will be cool, guys, is to see you, Kurt, as a head coach, and having Jay, the broadcaster, interview his former roommate. How about that? That would be really cool.
Yeah, until I lose some games and he's calling for my head.
I don't know. I think you'll do all right for sure. As far as when you had Coach Holtz there, and I know you guys were hungry. Do you feel the same way? I get this feeling from the guys going from Mo to Houston. It's not the same, but it's similar into what you guys were hungry. Like you said, you knew when he walked in the room. I think that the guys have told us that are on the team right now that they felt the same way. Similarly, when you said that, it brought the memory to me of the players. They knew that he was a winner at James Madison. Everywhere he's been a winner at being Coach Houston. He has a fantastic staff. He's organized. I mean, I think the guy's organized down to the second for every single day. He's that organized. And I just feel something special. It may not be this season, as I've said 100 times on the show, but 21 is going to be very special. The recruiting has been, we told you that right before the show. The recruiting has been tremendous with this guy. I just can't believe all the great pieces he has as far as the coaching staff. And I know it takes a whole team as far as the coaching staff, but man, they've been outstanding with it. I can't believe it.
Yeah, they do a great job. I've been in the area. Coach has been in North Carolina and Virginia, and I've been in the general area now most of my life. And I just have tons of respect for him with how he's kind of come up. And everywhere he's been, he's won. And regardless of high school, D3, D2, D1, whatever, the formula for success is not that far off. And I know a few guys on staff still and always say great things about him, and I have confidence that he's going to build a program on toughness and do it the right way. And it begins with recruitment and also developing the guys we got.
Coach, we got a question for you here from Tommy Nathan. He said, Kurt, I heard when Coach Holtz got there, he felt the O-line was a bit heavy, so he took pictures of everyone with their shirts off and put them outside the locker room. Is there any truth to that?
Well, I didn't play O-line, so I can't vouch for that. That'd be a good Fred question, man. That's probably why Fred moved over. But I know we did recruit a bunch of lean guys, like Willie Smith guys. I don't know if you remember him. Willie came in, and he's about 6'6". Came in about 6'6", 220, and he left at about 300 pounds. And he embraced the weight room, did it the right way, played in the league. And I think those were the guys that he ideally wanted to get. But I can't vouch for that. That'd be a great Fred question. That's why Fred moved over from the D-line to O-line, but it's possible.
Hey, Bubba, maybe you could text Fred and ask him right now.
Yeah, I believe Willie Smith is actually back in the Raleigh Triangle area doing some real estate.
Oh, good for him, man. Good for him. Started at the end first, then moved over.
Yep.
As far as defense wise, with your group, amazing stuff you did. What about now with it's been 5 straight losing seasons? It's hard for me to say that every time. 5 straight losing seasons for the Pirates. Do you think there'll be improvements with having a new defensive coordinator? There's a school of thought that's going to take some time, obviously, to learn the schemes and learn. There's new defensive coaches and a defensive coordinator. However, if it's simple enough, sometimes you see when Rick Smith came in, like in 2013, he simplified the defense, and then next thing you know, it's not a top 10 defense, but it was enough to get you to a bowl.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do it the right way. I know Coach Houston's been a defensive guy in the past, I think, but this year's a little tough given new scheme. Be interesting how this year plays out with just doing everything on Zoom. But I'm sure they got great guys in place on defense. I know Tripp really well on defense and a couple other guys. So I'm sure they're going to have a good plan in place and putting the kids in good spots based off what they can handle.
So, Kurt, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, I know you spent a lot of times on special teams, and you were playing defense with the guys, the likes of Emmanuel Davis, Travis Simmons, earlier in your career, Travis Williams. So, just talk about being on the scout team and just what an important job that is, because I know Coach Holtz and the staff, what they nominated you for the Rudy Award, which is talking about exemplary character and courage, etc.
Yeah, and so Coach Holtz did a great job of defining everyone's role in the team, and I knew my role. And I wanted to play more and more, but at the same time, the coaches did a good job of valuing the players like myself that didn't have the Monday through Friday role and not as much Saturdays. So part of that was the coaches acknowledging, everyone on the roster and defining our roles in the team. So I was a scout team player for most of my career. And I just embraced it, man, because I really felt like it made the team better for us to perform on Saturdays. And I just worked my tail off throughout the week, and it made Saturdays that much enjoyable. As a scout team kid, it can be tough sometimes because you don't get a lot of the people calling your name on Saturdays. But I know a kid like Chris Johnson, everybody who worked his tail off, a lot of people are saying, like, Kurt, slow down, don't go so hard. I can say for a kid like CJ, he never said that. He was encouraging it. He embraced it. And I can feel like I helped get the guys better and also get myself better. So when I did get my chance to play on Saturdays, it was just like a Tuesday practice for me because that's how I practiced throughout the week.
And Kurt, certainly, do you think that playing on the scout team, did that help you become a better coach or certainly prepare you what you wanted to do?
It definitely did. Because like I said, knowing your role and embracing is important. You don't have to like it, but you need to embrace it and attack it. And that's kind of helped me as a coach to work. I can really talk to the players and tell them, like, hard work pays off. If you come to work every single day, embrace the program, it works in the end. And there were days I got frustrated. I wanted to play more, this, that, and the other. And I wasn't as talented as the other guys, but I just trusted the process. I trusted the weight room, Coach Holtz, Coach Smith, Coach Hudson. And I ended up really happy with my production my last about a year and a half, couple years. And I wouldn't change a thing because it really made me appreciate the work I put in. So I had to work for it, and so I should. I wasn't as good as the other guys.
You're talking about the weight room. What about Coach Golden? I got a chance to meet him and really liked him a lot. He definitely was. He was tough.
It was good, man. So, I don't know how much people have talked about it, but we had these 6 a.m. workouts on Fridays for the guys that weren't on the travel list, where we were kind of like their test dummies. We were pushing cars, stadiums, running weights, and a lot of those fall 2005 Friday morning guys, he was molding us. It was guys like myself, Chris Maddox, Van Eskridge, I'm trying to think, not CJ Wilson, guys like, a bunch of guys like that he was molding with those tough 6 a.m. workouts. They really let us have it a little bit. And after we lost to some game in 2005, he told us, that group, that as long as Coach Holtz is there, we'll go to a bowl game every single year. and it's going to start with this group right here. And it began, I feel like, on those 6 a.m. workouts on Fridays during the season. And he said, it ain't going to happen like this. And we were all a bunch of, like, young kids, walk-ons, whatever, that were like, yeah, we're going to earn it right here on these Friday mornings. And those Friday morning workouts were interesting. We're pushing bands up hills, ropes, different things like that. Man, it was a trip. But it started with Coach Golden in the weight room in those early morning workouts.
I remember seeing those back at that time, those big tires.
Yep.
That I remember that he had you guys. I guess he had you guys pushing those tires.
Oh, he did it all.
Things like that. That was more like farm work and not like.
It was good, man. It was good because guys.
Yeah, Bubba, did you have a question?
Yeah, that's what. When you came in, Kurt, and the Pirates were coming off a 2-9 season. Prior to that, we were 1-11, so we had won 3 games in 2 years. And then, like you said, it was very apparent that Coach Holtz had been a head coach before, and then he had such pedigree from his father. So with that being the case, you saw 5 wins in year 1 and just on the verge of going to a bowl, and then 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins in the conference championship. So just talk about that progression now, especially looking back at it from a coach's perspective.
Yeah, also the one thing I'll say, I mentioned like how he knew what he wanted to accomplish, how he wanted to do it, and he never varied from that. He was in it to build long-term success. He wasn't in it to build it, for year 1 to try and just, we always wanted to win the most games, but he built it the right way for long-term success and never took shortcuts. Like, for example, on defense, I remember with Coach Hudson that we really, on Sundays, we would do, I want to say, like up downs for every MA we did from the previous game Saturday. And those just simple steps just paid off. So I feel like Coach Holtz, he did it the right way, never varied off the track and what he believed in, and he was building it for a long term. Doing it by recruiting the guys, developing guys in the weight room, and also recruiting the right kids for the program. He never varied off his path.
I want to ask you about Coach Hud. We've heard some funny stories about the prankster, and Bubba, we're working really hard to get him on the show. But do you have any funny Coach Hud stories you can tell? I know it's a family show, but we've heard some stories last year, so we were wondering, you were from that era, so I had to put you on the spot, especially being you're a defensive player.
And Kurt, before you answer this, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Nick Johnson when we talked to him for 50 Pirates in 50 days. He told a story. We had actually won the ball game, but the defense didn't perform up to our expectations and the standard. So Coach Hud, he threw a cake off the meeting room wall.
Yeah, absolutely, on Thursday. Yeah, I remember that distinctly. A good Coach Hud story, man. Like, well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if it's not a funny one, but as a coach, you get about 30 minutes of individual drill work. And for the guys that played, that they'll know what get right is, where it's basically like just you start in the goal line and you're going to do, ladders, sprints. And typically I think the plan is do it for 5 minutes and it's over with. And he always said, if you don't do it perfectly the right way through the line, bust your tail, we'll go the entire inning. And as players, we're like, there's no way we're doing it for 35 minutes. Well, multiple times we did it for 35 minutes.
Oh, my God.
So he talked the talk and he walked the walk. He proved it early on that he was not messing around with that. So we learned that early on, man, from Coach Hud. You weren't going to do it right. We're going to keep doing it.
Definitely not. The word soft is not in his vocabulary for sure, right?
Not one bit, no.
But definitely a coach that you would run through the brick wall. You hear that all the time as a sports cliche, but definitely a coach you would run through a brick wall for.
No doubt. I saw Garrett, his son, at the convention this winter, and I told him the same thing. I said, man, like, I would have done anything for your dad. You know what I mean? And all those guys.
And he actually had a daughter that came back and cheered for East Carolina.
Oh, really? Nice. I know he came back to a game or two. I think I saw on Facebook somewhere, which is good to see.
Want to give a shout out, Bubba, to Chuck, one of our friends, Chuck Young, who is from Sport Work Ministries. Thank a lot of Chuck, and he's watching tonight. So I want to say hello to Chuck. and hopefully something I wanted to ask you. I know we're talking about your career and all, but do you think with the Ivy League today announcing there's going to be no fall sports, do you think there's going to be spring football and not the fall where we have normally where we would have football that'll be pushed back to January?
It'll be interesting. I think the powers above, people way above me, have got multiple plans in place. So the same thing I tell my players, man, keep your knees bent, ready for any sudden change that comes your way. So as coaches, we ask players to be flexible. As coaches, we got to stay flexible too. And I think if that's the route we go, it'll be exciting and different, and we'll just jump into it full speed like we do.
As far as I know it's something that's uncharted territory, but how I guess it's going to be kind of tough to keep guys in condition. Not normally as far as not conditioning like conditioning, but as far as game conditioning, it's going to be different because you're going to have a long time before you have your first game, right? If they do make that decision.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. We've given the guys a workout program. One thing I've stressed to the guys is everyone's got different access to weights, but you should be able to do the best you can to be conditioned if you have field access. So I've told them that like your actual weight room numbers might drop, but you should do whatever you can to be conditioned and be in shape. Now we have kids from like New York City and Philly with no open space, but it's going to be a thing. But our strength coach, Coach Lynch, does a great job. He did studies in the NFL lockout in terms of like soft tissue injuries, and he's got a plan in place to get the kids right.
Well, I was going to ask you that very. That's a nice segue. I was going to ask you that very thing about injuries. Is something I worry about with student athletes. How do you protect a guy? Again, with I guess it's trial. It's not trial by error because you guys are experts, but when it comes to injuries, I worry about that. But I guess if you're the better you're in shape, maybe they'll help with the injuries, not having an injury.
Definitely. So the first thing I've always learned is like a big thing in the weight room and the strength program is injury prevention. And it's going to be when we put the pads back on, it'll be kind of a process and learning, and we'll have to adjust things. But we'll do it the right way, man. One difference is a lot of times at our level in Division I, you have kids all summer and they come to camp in shape. One adjustment is we might have to use camp to get the kids into shape. But a lot of guys and staff have been different levels, so I understand how we got to adjust there.
We have a question from our co-host. He chimes in. Do you have your players back on, I should say campus, not campers, but I do love an RV, but do you have your players back on campus yet?
There's some guys that didn't leave. Some guys decided to stay at leases in town, so they just stayed in campus because Maine has really been, for the most part, relatively a pretty safe place in terms of numbers. So we had a lot of kids stay up here, but in terms of the makeup of the team, they're all not back yet. There's a plan in place. It's going to be very shortly. We've got everything in line. We just need to get it signed off by the powers above, and it's going to happen real shortly for us here at Maine. I just can't. It's getting signed off, I think, this week, and the kids will be back here right after.
Kurt, along those lines, I know each school's handled it differently. That's one of the things. I know East Carolina, they were testing upon arrival. The University of Houston, however, and the AAC did not, and they had to shut things down there a week or week and a half in because of that and the volume of kids that were testing positive. So how's the University of Maine handling it, and how many have been positive so far?
We have not had the kids back, so we have not tested yet. And we'll begin workouts when the kids get back. So like we'll know all those in the coming weeks about that kind of thing. But since we have not had the kids back from out of town yet to work out, we don't have numbers positive.
And I apologize if you'd already mentioned that you guys weren't back. I apologize. I had to step away for a moment, but kind of transitioning from that, we talked about the influence that Coach Holtz had on you, and later on, after leaving East Carolina, after a couple of coaching stops elsewhere, you had the opportunity to rejoin Coach Holtz. But just talk about, just go chronological order, starting off the U.S. Coast Guard, where you coached outside linebackers and were the video coordinator, and then to Trinity, et cetera, and take us up to where you are now.
Yep. So I knew I wanted to coach right away. So I played for Rick Smith. He was a former high school coach, and me and him are real close. And originally, that's the route I wanted to go. And then I finished playing, and I talked to Coach Smith, Coach Hudson, Coach Holtz. about different options. And it turns out Coach Shank, his son's first job with the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, Court, who's now at Lafayette, in different places as well. The U.S. Coast Guard offensive coordinator was a GA for Coach Shank from '91 Peach Bowl team. So Coach Shank came and talked to me in that spring and said, Kurt, would you be interested in the Coast Guard up in Connecticut? And before that, I had never been north of Jersey in my life. And at first I was unsure, and I wanted to kind of stay in the area where I had a comfort level in Virginia, North Carolina. And he advised me of the opportunity. I talked to Court. Court said it was a great job. And I went to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut. And it was a bit of a culture change, but I absolutely loved it. Was there for a year. Then went to Trinity College, another D3 school in Hartford, Connecticut. Great place, great coaches. And then was at Dartmouth for a brief amount of time. Up in New Hampshire, Ivy League school. Great bunch of coaches, outstanding. And then in June, they went to 4 GAs. And at that time, Coach Holtz is at South Florida, and one of the GAs was Joe Sloan. And me and Joe are real close. I was in Joe's wedding last summer. They went 4 GAs, and they called me on a Friday and said, Kurt, we're going to 4 GAs. When can you get here? I left Saturday. Got to Tampa by Sunday, ready for camp, and was with Coach Kosh. So I was with Coach Holt at South Florida for that. My first year was his last year. I was with the linebackers and Coach Kosh. And then everything went down in December, where the staff got let go, and Coach Taggart came in. I wanted to stay. I didn't know what was going on. People were coming in and out. So I actually slept in the office. So I made sure the first person Coach T saw in the morning was me, and the last person he saw was me. And luckily enough, Coach Taggart kept me. Then was there for 2 more years and worked with the D-line and linebackers with Coach Taggart for 2 years. So I was there at South Florida 3 years total. And then after that 3rd year, Chowan University in Murfreesboro, North Carolina, which is about an hour or so north of Greenville, came open. Did some research, talked to the right people, and I got the job. I spent 4 years there as the linebackers coach and D coordinator. So that was great to be back home. I was an hour or so south, or 2 hours south of Richmond, back in East North Carolina, where I had tons of connections and just, great memories. Spent 4 years there. And then just January of 19, came to University of Maine. The guy that replaced me at Trinity became the D coordinator at Maine, brought me on. And so since January 19, been at University of Maine coaching the D-line. And it's very similar to ECU in terms of we take a lot of blue-collar type kids with different stories and how they got there. So it's been great. Got a great culture, a great head coach, administration, man. We got a great group of guys on staff and great players as well. Going year 2 right now.
Yeah, I knew 2 seasons ago you guys won 10 ball games the season prior to your arrival.
Yeah, so they went to the Final Four. They won the CAA, which is traditionally one of the top dogs in FCS, and they really built this thing up, man. And they won 10 games, won the conference, went to the Final Four. Had some injuries, had some bumps last year, went 6-6, but we've really got a great group of guys, man. It's a special place. Winners are different.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, as far as the different places you've been, does it matter to levels or where you've been as far as recruiting, or is recruiting pretty much the same?
That's like different levels. You might be recruiting kids at different times of their life. And, at Chowan, we recruited kids late in the process, as opposed to here, we start much earlier and have more resources. And at South Florida, it was a much bigger thing being in Florida and the magnitude of the recruiting there. But I think any level of recruiting is about relationships, and just also taking time to just listen to what kids want. And I've been at D3, 1AA, FCS, FBS, and there's certain things that transition over. You got to work hard, have a plan, okay, just be honest with the kids. And that carries over in my mind from any level. You have different resources and different kinds of kids in each spot. But the core of it stays the same in my mind.
Bubba, do you have a question?
Not a question, just a comment. Like Kurt was saying, the CAA, a lot of folks refer to it as the SEC of the FCS. and certainly consistently one of the top 2 or 3 leagues of the FCS.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Every week, I mean, like every week's a grind, man. Every week's a grind, and our kids know it, and we embrace it. And that's one of the special things about the league is just the competition from recruiting to on the field.
I know that the coaches don't like to talk about it, but what do you think about the upcoming season for Maine? How do you feel about going in? And we don't know when we're going to play the first game, obviously, but how do you guys feel as coaches, realistically?
I feel great. We got a great group of guys. I know on the D line we lost 4 seniors. So outside looking in, that's a concern. But I'm ecstatic about the guys we have. We have a bunch of talented young kids that are ready to step up, and they're hungry. Okay, so I know we got a lot of great players coming back, and they're hungry to prove people wrong. Despite losing 4 guys up front, we got a bunch of talented guys back that have played some games, and they've attacked this off season. And I couldn't want anything more from these guys. They've been great. So I'm ecstatic for the year, whenever that may be. We'll be full go when it happens.
As far as the administration is concerned there in Maine, have you guys felt the pain like East Carolina? A lot of schools I saw where Stanford cut 11 sports or something like that. It's crazy what's going on in college sports right now.
We have not been hit like that. I can't predict the future, but so far we've been good with everything. Our AD Ken Ralph, I think, has handled the thing outstanding. As has our chancellor, our head coach. So we have not seen the same cuts. Now, in terms of what happens going forward, I can't speak for that, but right now, man, I've been blessed to work for a great group of guys.
Bubba, did you have a question?
No, Dave. I think I'm good. That's what I just wanted to thank Kurt for coming on, and we'd love to have you back on down the road when we're actually playing some football to talk about things there at Maine and the CAA.
No doubt. Whenever you guys want me back, just give me a holler, and we can make this thing work, man. It's good to be back.
All right, Kurt, how can people follow you on social media and keep up with you?
Yep, so I've got a Twitter. It's at Kurt Von Bargen. It's probably the best way. Follow me on there. Guys can give me a follow, give me a DM, give me a shout, whatever you guys need. But I would love to just, I love ECU meant a lot to me. I told everybody. Outside of my parents, my experience and the coaches had on me at ECU were the biggest impact on me as anyone in my life. So it's a great place, man, and just love being back involved a little bit.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you being a part of 50 Pirates in 50 days. The Pirates kick off week 0, August 29th, until we hear something different. So we have 50 Pirates in 50 days regardless. Kurt, thank you so much for being on, and look forward to having you back on very soon.
No doubt. Thank you, guys. You take care.
Thanks, Kurt.
Definitely.
Great night there to have Kurt on, Bubba. Appreciate him so much. It's been a lot of fun doing 50 Pirates in 50 days. I know we've got a lot of great programming coming up. And tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to miss tomorrow night, Thursday night, right here on the Sports Objective.
Yeah, tomorrow night we're going to be talking East Carolina wrestling. Of course, the Pirates had a dynasty back in the early to mid 70s, 72 to 77. We won 5 consecutive Southern Conference titles. So going to be a lot of fun catching up with Coach John Welbren, who orchestrated that, and then also several of the wrestlers who made it happen on the mats and produced a 94, 14, and 3 mark for Coach Welbren from 67 through 77. So going to be a lot of fun talking about that tomorrow night. No trivia on Friday night, and then next Tuesday we will have Rachel Barbeau from Sirius XM. We've had her on the program before. She'll be rejoining us, and then also Curtis Thiemann, East Carolina alum with Port City Films, who's done such an excellent job with the entrance video. And then on tomorrow's 50 Pirates in 50 Days, join me early, folks, or catch it after the fact. Whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, SoundCloud or Anchor, those 4 places you can hear these interviews. They're all archived, of course. Tomorrow at 7:30 a.m., I will be catching up with, and Dave may join me depending on his situation getting to work. We will be joined by Richard Kuntz, former Pirate linebacker from this same era.
I was to say I can have breakfast with Bubba, right?
Sure. Virtual breakfast.
All right, sounds good. Are you buying? You can
Why
buy it
not?
tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's funny. I went back and watched the interview that Clip Brock. He's done an excellent job with the Pirate Radio
absolutely.
Zoom Room, and I never had the opportunity to watch the one he did with Alec Burleson here about 3
It was
weeks ago.
awesome.
So I watched that this afternoon, and Burley's actually, with baseball not going on, he's of course working out and doing the things he needs to do to stay in shape and be prepared from that angle. But to try to generate a little income for himself, he's delivering for DoorDash. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, he's actually up, of course, in the Lincoln County area. He's been doing that, and actually is, I think, back in Greenville now.
That's crazy. Well, I tell you what, very excited. I heard from our good friend Trent Britt and the Next Level Training Center, and apparently they had a great month of June. They've got, of course, a lot of great players, baseball players. We've had him on, and maybe we can have him back on, Bubba, soon. But I know they're taking all the right precautions and they're doing all the safety measures and all the stuff the governor and local authorities have asked business owners to do. But really happy for him and any business owner right now that's able to be open and doing what they have to do to stay open and be in compliance with local and state and national officials.
Yeah, it's certainly been hard on those guys. That's excellent news to hear that Trent Britt and the folks in Next Level Training Center in Greenville are doing well. Some other notes that I wanted to mention, I know we've already referenced multiple times what was going on with the Ivy League. They were, of course, the first to shut things down back in early to mid-March, and now they're the first at the Division I level to shut things down. I've seen some folks saying that they were the first to shut things down. I know there's a Division II conference, if not multiple Division II conferences that shut things down probably at least 2 weeks ago out in California. So kind of some East Carolina basketball notes. Of course, Joe Dooley made a statement yesterday. I think this was to Stephen Igo or either Stephen Igo or Ronnie Woodward.
It was Ronnie
with the Daily Reflector, saying that everybody on the roster, with the exception of Charles Coleman and then Noah Farrakhan, are back on campus, which is excellent. And they've all undergone the COVID-19 testing. Did not specify how many, if any, tested positive. But then also East Carolina basketball alum Michelle Nzigi. Nzigi was signed by the Geneva Lions, who's a Swiss League powerhouse. He signed a 1-year deal with them. So congratulations to Michelle Nzigi.
That's very cool, and very happy to. We need to have Coach Rockerford on. I've got a little bit of a beard. I didn't have time to shave this morning or this evening. Getting here just a nick of time to be able to do the show. But Coach Rock, man, he actually has gone to clean shave. I used to call him. I don't know if I told you and Kyle, but the professor of basketball. He looked like a college professor, and now he looks totally different now without that beard. And now you have you got some facial hair growing even more now. But anyway, Coach Rock, hopefully we can have him on, and a lot of coaches, and certainly thinking about Kim McNeil, the great job she and her husband Corey and the whole staff have done for women's basketball. I mean, Bubba, it's a great. It's it's never been a better time to be a Pirate than right now, because we're only going to go up, and I really feel like with the direction of with the coaching staffs and everything, things are looking really good for the Pirates right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I certainly agree with you. We have a bright future with all the coaches we have in place. Johnny Gardner chiming in, great show as always. Kurt Von Bargen, tremendous ambassador for the Pirates, no doubt. Jay Sonhalter had told me when I told him earlier this afternoon that we were going to have him on, that he was very well spoken, a tremendous interview. And like we read in the comment earlier when Kurt was still on the program, that Jay thinks that he has the potential to be a head coach down the road. And after hearing that interview, I certainly agree. Who knows? Maybe Kurt Von Bargen will be back on the sidelines, whether it's an assistant coach or as a head coach for East Carolina someday. And of course, he referenced Joe Sloan. That's another guy from that Coach Holtz, Skip Holtz tree, who is now Coach Holtz's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach down at La Tech.
That's great news, and that's a sign. You always hear that, Bubba, and you know this because you've coached. You always know a great sign of a great coach, I should say, when there's like a huge tree, a coaching tree, where it starts off with that coach, and then all these other coaches, it just keeps like there's a whole bunch of branches, right? And with Coach Holtz, you can't argue. The guy won 2 championships and back to back in 2008 and 2009, and I often wonder what would happen if Coach had stayed here, like I thought he was going to do, and then next thing you know, he goes to USF.
Yeah, Rick Smith kind of addressed that, and he said he didn't want to speak for Coach Holtz, but he certainly, and I'm sure this was easy in hindsight because things didn't go well at USF, but he said Coach Holtz certainly loved Greenville, and in his opinion, he was guessing that Coach Holtz probably second-guessed that move maybe a little bit, but I don't know that to be the case, but certainly appreciative of everything that Skip and his family did for East Carolina while they were there from December of 2004 up through January of 2010. But obviously not a whole lot going on right now in the way of sports, but one of the things that is going on is the PGA's been playing without spectators, and Harold Varner III, he had one rough outing, I think, down in Hilton Head where he missed a cut. But other than that, he's played pretty well for 3 or 4 events, and he's accumulated, I think, $782,000 plus in earnings, and earned $43,000 plus on the most recent tournament, at the Rocket Mortgage Classic up in Detroit, I think it was last weekend.
Yeah, I'll take that. How about you? Will you take that, and we'll do the sports objective?
Yeah, 782,000 plus, not bad. And I want to say Harold's right around 100, maybe 105 as far as his world rank, but he's somewhere in that general ballpark, and hopefully he'll continue to play well. And if he continues to play good golf, sooner or later he's going to put it together on the weekend and find a way to get into the winner's circle.
Bubba, I think I've told you this before, but if I haven't, I don't think I have with the audience. But golf, as far as TVs are concerned, the high definition televisions that we have now has really improved the game of golf. Even though now we have an HV3, of course, a lot of us are watching more and more golf than we ever have. And the fact that you see those televisions, man, it looks impressive to see golf on television now. You're on mute. If you can hear me, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, like you're saying, technology. I love this, and this has been this way for several years now, but for the last decade or so, just like the Sky Cam with football, that moves with the ball on the cable over the field. Same thing. I love seeing the aerial shots of the drives. And something else I want to mention on the college football front. We talked about the decision the Ivy League made. I also saw that Northwestern and Wisconsin, they were supposed to play at Wrigley Field this year, and
in November, right?
And the Wisconsin AD made the decision, I'm sure in conjunction with the Chicago Cubs, that will not be the case. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity for them to play, period, this fall, but it's looking less and less likely, not to be a glass half empty guy, but it's not looking good. And also something I mentioned, this broke in the last couple days, but I know the University of Hawaii will be looking for a game because Fordham, an FCS program, will not be playing until at least I think it's September 26th. That's assuming anybody's playing, but their first 3 games in conjunction with their COVID-19 regulations have been canceled. So if Hawaii is playing football, then they'll be looking for a game on the 26th of September.
Wow, that's amazing. And hopefully that'd be cool for us to take the trip to Hawaii, wouldn't it? I know we're not going to be doing that, but we got a packed schedule. But I tell you what, you never know with not playing hypotheticals here or what ifs, but man, you could have it where a couple of our games are canceled, right? And not like we want them to, but who knows what's going to happen. I think that for those of us that work day to day in the environment of COVID, it's extremely stressful. I'm praying, Bubba. I'll tell you this: I am praying. We don't wear a mask on television here, on certainly on social media with the Sports Objective, or Facebook Live or YouTube. But I tell you what, folks, if you don't wear a mask, it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better, and it's not like something that's going to go away. And I'm praying that we'll see where people, especially in the demo 20 to 44, that demo is not taking things seriously. The numbers have spiked. North Carolina now, I sent you guys a picture, the graphic today, Bubba. I don't know if you saw that, but North Carolina is not 25th in the nation, but 25th in the world with the number of cases right now with the outbreak. And that's up there with other states and literally other countries. Arizona, I know, is way up there. Florida is way up there, but we are in the top 25 and not a category we want to be in.
Not at all. Just everybody has to be responsible and take care of themselves. The power of one, as they say, and just do what they need to do, and then that's all. That's all we can do.
Yeah, and I know with you, for example, and your wife Stacy, and then I know Kyle's wife Jessica, all are teachers, and you're a particular coach, and that's what I was worried about. We were talking about this before. I thought by now we would start to be moving away and things would be better. We are talking about tonight where we're still the cases are going up as an outbreak, and hopefully in the next, maybe in the month of July, things will get better, and maybe it's a month later than we anticipated. Those of us by now, we thought, including I think Dr. Breen, Bubba said last week, you mentioned to me off air that he thought that very case by now we would be there, and so I agreed with him, and hopefully we'll start to see where the businesses in North Carolina will take. And I won't call anybody out, but there's certain businesses that we have in common, if a chain store, if you will. And when somebody asked that person, they said, "How come?" They asked that that worker that was working there, "How come you're not getting on people? They're not wearing a mask." And the person said, "Well, our manager told us not to." So in other words, they care more about the money than they do people's lives. So I don't want to go on my soapbox or tangent on that. I just want people to understand that it's real, it's serious. And if you love sports, there's so many Pirate fans in Pirate Nation not wearing a mask right now. Please put on a mask. We'll see how much you love ECU football, because it's going to be a big over the next Bubba. There's never been a more critical time now, whether we play in the fall, than if we could somehow turn this thing around in the next few weeks. By especially when you have Q Tucker today. I know I sent that to you, but she had a press conference with the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, the commissioner, who we had on the show that we like a lot, and I know they, as far as reporting and people trying out for sports and stuff, that day is August the 1st. So I would imagine they would have until somewhere on that date to make a decision, right? For high school.
Yeah. Obviously, they have to move quickly. I don't know what the drop dead date would be as far as that type of decision, but obviously they don't have long, because that date's just 3 weeks away as far as practices getting underway officially. But yeah, it's not looking good. I cannot imagine being one of these high school athletes and looking at missing my senior season, whether it's football, volleyball, whatever.
All right, Bubba. Well, I appreciate all your hard work, and I appreciate Kurt coming on. It's been a lot of fun. And by the way, folks, if you have a certain pirate you want on for 50 Pirates in 50 days, maybe you're a player, maybe you played with the guy, or maybe you were college friends, whatever the case may be, a relative, for 50 Pirates in 50 days. We have 40 some more days before we have hopefully the first game. You can email us, thesportsobj@gmail.com, thesportsobj@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook, and of course, we'll talk more about our football sweepstakes, and hopefully we can give those season tickets away soon. But whenever we do play, we will give those tickets away for sure. Bubba, man, thank you so much for all your work behind the scenes, and certainly on camera and on the mic as well.
I appreciate it, Dave. And remember, make note of that interview tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. right here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I'll be joined, and perhaps Dave will join us as well, as we'll catch up with Richard Kuntz, former East Carolina defensive end and linebacker.
All right, Bubba, thank you again so much for your hard work. Thanks to Kurt, and I know he's working really hard in Maine. Appreciate being a part of 50 Pirates in 50 Days. And we'll see you tomorrow morning right here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody, and